Hello, welcome to the Be the CEO of Your Life live show. And today is a very special day because Liz Capants is here with me. Hi, Liz.
Hi, Yvonne. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. So this show is all for busy entrepreneurs who are really looking for ways to make their business easier, to get more time on their hands so they can enjoy life. And I invite very special guests that I really like, and the story that they want to share, I like very much as well. And today, I think it's an honor to have here with me, Liz. Liz, can you quickly introduce yourself so that people know who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be here. Thanks so much, Yvonne, and wonderful to be a guest on your show. So I'm Liz Capants. I'm based here in New York, and I lead a search, consulting, and advisory search firm. And then I also have a networking group that is tied into the business of connecting people, making introductions, whether it's hiring or more of an informational networking meeting. So
great. Yeah, and that's what we're going to talk about, right? Because for me, you are the networking queen. So why networking gets you everywhere? Talk to me about how did you figure out that you were great at networking? What happened that you all of a sudden realized, hey, this is actually something I'm good at?
Yeah, that's a great question. I honestly think, Yvonne, a lot of this is from my father. So my father was a great networker and really had so many events and started a group that's still in Houston today. And he was one of those people that would go into a restaurant and introduce and meet, all the people, all the staff, get to know them. And I think just growing up and kind of inheriting that, from my father. I didn't really step into it though till about 8 years ago with my business. But then now I see so many parallels to what I do. I'm like, oh, I'm just like my father. So it's kind of a lot of it. Honestly, I think, I'm kind of the fundamentals of what it is come from my father, both my parents really. But
yeah. And because I'm part of your networking group, and we're going to talk a bit about that. But what I really love and what I found different when I first entered was that there is so much mutual respect for everyone in the group. So talk to me a bit, because that really ties for me to values. So can you share a bit about what values you have and how that drives what you do?
Yeah, I think it's just, for me at least, the goal and objective is to find out about the other person. I'm very passionate about that. So I feel fortunate because for me, it doesn't really feel like work. Even though it is tied into my core business and my work. So learning about the person, their career, their challenges, the journey that they've had is not always what they set out to do originally. And, how I can, help them to connect them to a company or help them in their job search journey is all sort of part of that. But putting it on them first, hearing from them first, and how can I help them?
Yeah. And I see Maria commenting that you're the best and your phone doesn't stop ringing. I love that. Yeah. So it's I said it earlier, you do a lot of things. Now, how do you combine it all, and what's the key element in all this business that you have?
So I think it all comes down to connecting people, whether it's a company. A lot of businesses right now, we've had an uptick in the market. So hiring is starting to pick up. However, a lot of companies oftentimes don't know what they want to hire, what that role actually is. And so I think that the core of everything is really that connecting people, connecting a company with potential candidates that might fit that position, or if it's a business that's looking for an introduction, it's sort of that same core of connecting people. Which is, yeah.
So it's actually networking is at the base of everything you do, because it's connecting the candidate to the right firm, but it's also connecting the firm to the right candidate. And then you have your networking group, which is all about networking and connecting the dots again. And then you also have another role, right? Can you tell us a bit about what the other part is that you do?
the other, so in terms of the working with the businesses, or so I will consult with them and help put a strategy in place. A lot of businesses now that are emerging, they're profitable, so they're trying to scale in the next 6 to 9 months, next couple of years. So I'll work with them on that that side too. And then of course, as you know, Yvonne, we have some of the events that are tied into what we do. So just slowly getting back into that. So I think it's all part of that whole ecosystem.
Right. Yeah, I love that. And you say ecosystem, and Hassan has a question. How to network and build financially fertile, growing or multiplying teams with people with different languages? And it's a great question. And I think, and I think that's what we didn't emphasize as much. You're based in the US, you're based in New York, I'm based in Europe, I'm in the Netherlands. And I think part of what you do is so powerful because it is global and it crosses borders, right?
Yeah.
And I think you and I are a great example because we work together, we're on different continents and still, we work together. So, but can you talk a bit to Hassan about how to work with teams and network with them when they use different languages?
Yeah, so that's a great question, Hassan. Thank you for that. I don't speak a lot of languages myself. I very rusty French, but I don't use it. So that I think is just having the, I guess, basics of their language to at least converse in. If you to start, if they're in different languages, I've never done that, so I can't really share my own experience. I think that what I can share is because I grew up in London. I had a very transatlantic upbringing. I've lost my accent, sadly, Yvonne. I don't have the English accent, but it does come out when I speak to English people. But I think for me personally, that global reach and understanding cultures and people from many different countries has really helped to grow the network and understand how these cultures work and people, because I've friends just all over the world. So I think I have a sort of a deeper appreciation because I had that transatlantic upbringing.
Yeah.
And rather than just growing up here, I had exposure to, so I think it's enabled me, even though as a child, it's very hard when you have to uproot and then constantly move and make new friends. But, as an adult, it served me well to be adaptable and appreciate and understand these different cultures. So,
yeah, I think that's the bottom line for me, is always to appreciate and try to understand. It's not so much to get everybody equal, because there's no such thing, but it's more valuing the differences that are there. And if I look at your question, Hassan, how to network and build financially growing teams with people with different languages, I maybe should give a bit more background, because I'm not sure what you're referring to. Is it a team in a corporation, or is it like a networking team? There are many different ways of looking at it. But I would say it's always important to find the common ground. And if you find the common ground, and if you respect each other and value each other's differences instead of disvalue them, you come a long way. And then it doesn't really matter where you're based or what language you speak, as long as you want to make it work. That's my experience. Yep. So now, why networking gets you everywhere? Can you tell me a bit about how you really feel that networking gets you places?
So here's one example, Yvonne, that I'll share and comes to mind. So if you're, for example, a job seeker, and so many amazingly talented people that are out in the market, you might be competing with, say, 500 other people for that same job. And so if you have a warm introduction, or if you can get referred into that business, and you might be comparable to the others, that definitely gives you an advantage, right, over the other people that are applying, because it is oftentimes very hard to make that selection if you have equally good candidates. So it can be super beneficial when you get that warm introduction or referral.
Yeah, I hear you. And I'm thinking about it. So it definitely I remember that someone on LinkedIn reached out to me. We chatted a couple of times, and he said, well, I see on your LinkedIn profile that you know Mark, and I'm going to apply for a job in the company where Mark works. Are you okay with introducing me to Mark? And I looked Mark up and I said, well, I don't know Mark personally. I'm just connected with him on LinkedIn, but I'm happy to try to, link the two of you together to see whether he's open to a conversation. And I just explained to him, I said, to Mark, I don't know you, but I have this person, he's applying. Would you be open to talk to him? And Mark said, yeah, sure, let's talk. Because they talked up front, my network, so to say, my network person, let's call him James. James, he had some inside information. And because of that, he went to the interview. He did really well. And then people asked Mark about James, and that's how he got the job.
Amazing. Yeah.
And I thought, that's just what you're saying. And this wasn't even me referring to him, but I thought it was so lovely. And I have to laugh because some other story comes to my mind. When I moved to South Africa, I used to get a lot of people asking me for jobs because my title it had HR in it, and I was an HR consulting. But everybody thought, oh, you're giving jobs away. So a lot of people asked me for jobs, and I always stayed friendly because I know how hard it is when you're looking for a job, right? So there was this one lady, and she was looking for a job, and her resume was really well. So I said, well, I'm happy to send it through to someone I work with, the leadership. Did it? They said no. So I said to her, sorry, can't do. And I tell you what, so it's a couple of months later, we go to a new client, which was very important for our portfolio. We go there, we come there. Guess who's there?
This person. Wow.
And I honestly, because we didn't met, of course we chatted, and she's like, I love you because you helped me. I'm going to make sure you're going to win this account because you helped me so much. And I was like, wow.
Amazing.
It was such a powerful thing. So
love that story. It's great.
Yeah, and you know what? It's so easy to say to someone, no, I don't have a job, or just to ignore them. And I thought, no, let me look at it. And she had a really good resume, and I made an effort. So luckily I did. It's what you have to do, I think.
Yeah.
So you also network, and I really love this. So you have international companies that come to you because you're based in the US and you have this amazing network.
Yes. Yep.
So how does that work?
In engaging with those businesses? Yeah. So great question. So how that works is, as they're transitioning here, before they were to set up an LLC or even incorporate and even open an office or, in the US, I'll work with those companies and get them very qualified, vetted introductions based on their business and their industry so that they can get, in the market, bring some revenue in. And then as a second step, when they're ready to open an office and to hire people, I'll work with them that way too. So that's something, Yvonne, that's really picked up with this COVID too, that just the global reach and, Zoom has really accelerated that. So
yeah. But it's beautiful that, you get best of both worlds because you help those international companies and you use your US-based contacts as well. So I can imagine that that's so powerful. I love it.
Thank you.
Okay, let me see, because Hassan has answered our questions. Okay, normally in office, multilingual cultures dream of every optimistic manager. I like the optimistic.
Yeah.
It's very hard, especially in a project with remote teams having centralized operations. How to sustain teams and grow teams in this scenario? Same question, different version. Right. Okay.
Let's see. In office, multilingual cultures dream very.
Yeah.
I think I understand the question, Hassan, is keeping your teams cohesive if they are not all in the same location, if I'm correct in understanding what you're saying. And certainly can be so challenging in Zoom. What's so interesting, Yvonne, which I've seen and you have too, some people have blossomed through Zoom. And really, there was an article in the journal I shared, Wall Street Journal, a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if you saw it. This was specifically for women that have.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen it, which is so amazing. So some people have really become so much more confident and more collaborative and done very well, and others really can't do well on Zoom, and really
Right.
even now are not really try not to do many Zooms. So it's interesting and hard though to maintain a collaboration with your team. I would say always over communicate in that Zoom environment to keep people on the same page, to keep them motivated. But it's certainly more challenging.
Yeah. And when I check the question, it's also, so there's a couple of risks or challenges, I would say. So it's multilingual, it's multicultural, and it's multiple locations. So
yes, yeah.
But then the operations are centralized. So basically, that already can be a challenge in itself when there's one centralized station that takes all the decisions, and you have to kind of push it out. It's. I'm thinking about it when I worked in South Africa. We had many different cultures in one office. And for example, it would review itself when we would have a team thing, when we would, for example, go for a team lunch. We always had to check where can we accommodate so many people, because there were vegetarians, there were people that eat halal. It was everything, and we always needed to find the right spot. So, like you say, I think it's over communicate. Really make sure to check things. I've learned there to always ask when you do something with food, do you have any dietary requests? And in South Africa, it would even depend on the day. Yeah, on Tuesday I'm vegetarian, but on Wednesday I eat meat. So can we go out on Wednesday?
Right.
But I think it's basically. It's really over communicate, over ask, do more than you would tend to normally do. Never assume, for sure, because that's the one thing you can't assume. And don't treat others like you want to be treated, but treat others like they want to be treated. That's for me a crucial thing. And then try to set the dot on the horizon and work towards it. I think that's what would work best, but it's definitely a challenge. So
it really is.
So talking about challenges, what have you faced either in your business or more general around networking? What's in your eyes a challenge?
That's a great question, Yvonne. I would say one of the biggest challenges, or I say frustrations with my business, and maybe on a broader scale, is the hard time people take to make a decision on a whether, especially for example in hiring, which can be a long drawn out process, assessments and interviews and different this and that presentations. And so I find one of the biggest challenges is that oftentimes, or even if it's a business trying to get a new client and get a decision, that decision-making process is always a challenge. And I find over the years, depending on the nature of the situation and the relationship, of course, I like to be decisive, have the information, let's evaluate, let's assess, but we have to come to a decision. I find the biggest challenge for me, one of them is working with people that can't make decisions, and because I like to let's move on and assess everything, but lack of decision making, I would say, is one of the, and I'm sure for every business owner,
I can imagine, and there's nothing you can do about it either, because you can't push, because that kind of blows it the other way.
Yep.
But you also have to Yeah, gee, I can. So what do you do then? Do you just
Yeah.
remain patient, or how do you go about
So,
it?
yeah, depending on the situation, Yvonne, great question. Some patience, yes, I'm a very patient person, but then gets to a point where it's like, okay, I'm able, if all the circumstances are right, to help really make that decision, if appropriate, for that person, that company, whether it's someone evaluating different jobs and struggling with that, which many do, or someone who's looking to make a decision on that hire, help them to get to that decision, so they feel they're making it, but I'm really, sort of accelerating that. And depending on, not always, but depending on the situation, I'm able to do that. And I find in those times that I've done that, people are very appreciative because they're struggling with that. And
Yeah,
so that
yeah,
decision making is always something that is, I find to be a challenge and somewhat slow. But it's the worst thing, I think, is not making a decision, not
yeah,
having any decision, and just drawing out the process. I think that's worse than making the wrong decision, right?
yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Okay. So Hassan says, "Thank you. Got the answer. Happens to me so
Oh,
often." Oh, that's good to hear, Hassan. Nice. Right. So then I also want to hear a bit about, of course, what I really like, Euridites, right?
yeah.
Tell me, how did it happen? And I can talk about it, but I really like you. You're the founder, so
Oh,
Euridites.
so yeah, very just organically. I'm part of several groups, here in New York, as Yvonne knows, and several people know. So again, it's a big part of my business and as a business owner. So it was very organic. A few years ago, had exited another group because, for two reasons. I was bringing all the people, and I wanted to create something that. Um, had a give back and had sort of more educational piece to it. And so it was a very pre-COVID. It was a very we'd meet twice a month. We'd meet in person, of course, and then we would host these events to help generate growth for a business and have a give back. So I wanted to also create something that was more collaborative and more supportive, knowing that in this whole networking world, there's different, types of referrals. It might be strategy. It might be maybe consulting rather than making an introduction. So kind of taking, I think, a bigger picture approach to networking was
Yeah,
sort of,
yeah,
it's how I work and how I like to think when I'm speaking with a, prospect, going into that conversation with a bigger picture. I don't really talk about hiring or what I do in that first conversation, but opening up with a broader question. And then in that, they will share a lot of things within the business that maybe it's someone that you could help, or maybe Kathleen or someone in the group. So I kind of going into with that approach, and then finding the hook where I might be able to be a resource, and kind of going from there. So
yeah. I like it, and it's happening, right? It's happened. So, what was it, yesterday or the day before? You had a meeting where several members of the network, of the Euridites network, came together and presented it as an agency, almost, where you kind of serve the client from multiple angles.
yeah,
And I really see that as a win-win. I see it as a win-win for the members of Euridites, who can, team up and then become more powerful. But it's also a win-win for the potential client, because he gets not one trustworthy person, but he gets more, which makes it easier to actually close the deal,
yeah.
because you're offering so much more.
Right, exactly. And
Yeah,
it makes, as many of us in the group are solopreneurs or small business owners, when we can bring those other resources, it brings so much more value that we can bring to that client, and makes it a win-win. So, and I find that, and I've seen, of course, the past 6 months to a year, that's just growing even more. And but it's all good. It's all, part of the ecosystem. And
yeah, I
yeah.
like that. So if anybody watches, could they join the network, or how does that work?
Yeah, so they could certainly come and visit, and we meet every Tuesday afternoon. It's 4 p.m. Eastern, so they're welcome to absolutely come and visit and check it out. So would welcome that. So
yeah. And if anybody needs to get in contact with you, this is your site. And there's all your contact details, all what you do. So whether you need a job, because you also have a network for job seekers, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Correct. Yep.
That's every Thursday. Whether you're a company that's looking for more possibilities to connect in the US or globally, or whether you're a company and looking for someone to hire and you don't really know how to, put it or who you're looking for, you just have a more vague idea, you're the person to go to. And when you want to meet all of us from the Eurydites network on Tuesdays, then this is also the place to go, because you can just visit and hang out.
Yeah. So no, thank you. That was a great recap. And I think my model is definitely very different in my space, because what I've wasn't always this way, Yvonne, as you know, but when the networking really ramped up, and knowing that there's no uniformity to finding a job, there's no one process, right? You can find a job you might meet someone at your gym that, you strike up a conversation, right? That's networking. That's happened,
Yeah.
So I'm unique in this hybrid model, because there's no one route to that. And then the Thursday group now has provided a lot of great resources. Actually, Tom Kowalski came in and spoke to our group yesterday about what to be aware of with some of the job scams, unfortunately, out there, and just not giving too much of your personal information. So it's very unique, but there's so many pieces to this process that are needed, and I don't think, so
I like it. I love it. So we're coming to the end. Is there any other question or anything that we didn't touch on or you want to share before we close it down?
I think just that last comment about how it's a different model for.
Yeah.
It's my focus is always all on the relationship, whether I can help you today or in 6 months, and building that rapport, building that network. And I see this Thursday group now as a couple of people in my group have secured positions, which is great in the past few weeks. But you always have to be building that network, not just when you need a job. It's
True.
something which can take up a lot of time. So this group, as we build the resources, will always be there for people that are in transition or just want to keep the door open a little bit, because I know how much time nurturing and building that network can take. So I'm super excited about that, and getting that even more broader in terms of resources and also, yeah.
Sounds good. So basically your closing tip is you always have to network, because you never know when you need someone.
Exactly. And that's what we're here for. Yeah. So.
I love it. Well, I think that we can't top that. So let's close it now. Okay. Thank you so much for being here, Liz. Really
Thank
good.
you, Yvonne. Great to be here. Thank you so much.
Okay. Everyone, good day. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, leave them underneath the live stream and we'll get back to you. Bye.